All right, we are live. I've got Aaron Amuchastegui here.
It has been a while since
I
we've
know.
been live together.
I know it's been what 6-7 months.
Seems like we go live at different times. We do messages at different times. Our biggest one was our 3-day live event where we just maybe it was 2 days where we just did every hour on the hour new people. That was pretty intense.
Yeah.
We'll do that again soon. Today we're talking about how to comp houses. We'll let everybody get a chance to kind of log in and join. We are pushing out live through our Facebook and through our YouTube page. And then in just a minute, we will start pushing it out there. So do we have a title? Do we have like a banner that we can say what we're doing here? Look at that. I can hide. That was like, I needed to add a banner.
Yeah, it was pretty creative. How to comp investment properties.
Cool. How to comp investment properties. That should just be streaming behind us to be like, look at this. So, but all right. So we will get going. Man, I'm feeling a little rusty with this StreamYard, but we're going to get after today to be able to show everybody essentially how to comp houses, how to go through and figure out essentially what comping is, how to establish that, and what different tools are available to do that. And so for us to get started, so the comping houses, so how to comp houses, what comping houses means when we say that is a short way of saying comparable sales. So what we like to do is say when we're going to figure out how much we're going to buy a house for, the first thing we need to figure out is how much it's going to sell for. So how much is this thing going to sell for after we buy it, after we fix it up? And that's the big question. So many people, I remember when we were building houses back in like 2005, 2006, and I'd say, well, if it costs us like $300,000 to build it, does that just mean we sell it for $330,000? Do we just mark it up 10%? And what I learned quickly was no, the sales price has nothing to do with your cost. Really, whatever it will sell for, it does not matter how much you put into it. It doesn't matter how much you bought it for. It matters what someone is willing to pay. So the whole theory behind how much should I price this house for? So I look at a house. If I fix this up, how much can I sell it for? The whole concept behind that is you have to figure out what would someone else pay for that house. The whole theory of appraisals, when banks go and send appraisals, what they're doing is they're figuring out properties that are like that, how much do they sell for? And it's going on the theory that if someone was willing to pay $200,000 for it, then it's worth $200,000. But if they don't have this exact house, they have to figure out, okay, here's some other houses in the neighborhood, look kind of like that one. Someone was willing to pay $200,000 for that one. And so now this one must be worth $200,000. So we're going to go into steps on how you can just simply comp houses using free stuff out there like Zillow, how you can comp houses in a similar fashion if you're pulling the comps from MLS, and then also how you can use it using our free Prophawk resource that Roddy people use. Curtis, anything I'm forgetting before we jump in and start sharing our screens?
No, I mean, I think we just want to emphasize how important comping is right now with a market the way it is. Getting a comp wrong, 3 to 5% can mean the difference between getting a deal at auction or outside of auction and missing out on that deal. So what Aaron's about to talk about and go through is super important.
Yeah, it's a super competitive time, right? So people and anyone that's been to an auction, you see that you end up losing the auction by $100 or by $1,000. You say, hey, I'm willing to pay, $120,000 for it. Sometimes it'll sell for $125,000. You go, wow, why could that person pay that for it? And it's because, and it could be a lot of things. It could be that they know a secret. It could be that they're going to spend less on it or they're going to sell it for more. And we've seen some really, really big surprises too over the last couple of months of just pricing growth. And so one of these things too is how do you comp houses in a time when the demand is so high, right? So do you say, hey, the houses this month are selling for 150, so should I just assume I'm going to sell it for 160 next month? And I would say the answer to that is no. We don't just assume it's going to go up a certain amount, but knowing that can help us be more aggressive on our bid price. So I would say, hey, using today's value, I'm going to sell this thing for 150,000, but because it's such a hot market, I'm willing to maybe pay 130 and only make 10,000 on it because I know it's going to sell. They might sell for more, but I know for sure at 150 it's going to sell really quick. So we're going to we'll start jumping into that as a concept. So all right, let me see if I could figure this thing out. I'm going to hit share my screen. if I could remember how to share my screen on here. I need to change my size. I don't see all my buttons. There they are. There's the buttons that I was looking for. Yeah, I'm an amateur over here, and I'm sorry, everybody, for that. All right, let's see if that's working right. So, all right, there is my Prophawk screen. So this is logging into Prophawk. This is pulling up kind of some older auctions. I'm just going to look back to, let's just say a house that's coming up this month in April. So how much would a specific house sell for? So see if I can find one that is still scheduled. All right. So this property comes up as, 5611 Calkstone Drive in Killeen. And so the things that we're going to use to figure that out is going to be obviously what's going on in the neighborhood. And when you're looking at what houses will sell for, the best is if you're trying to find houses that are similar to that are very close by, that are in kind of that same neighborhood. So this is about a 1/4 mile radius. So we're saying, all right, the houses nearby here's the ones that have sold. So we're going to use that as kind of a standard. Different things that we're going to consider is square footage, bedroom count, bathroom count, the year built, and also, is there a pool? Is there not a pool? And also, you would take things like the specs on the inside to affect that. If something has granite counters and stainless appliances, it might sell for $5,000 or $10,000 more than one that doesn't. Now, one thing about auction is we don't always know. We don't know what's going on inside that house. We can't see those pictures. In that case, we need to make a guess. So first, I'm going to zoom in and see if there is a pool in the backyard. I don't see a pool in the backyard, but man, this house in particular has more trees than any other house in the neighborhood. That is wild when you zoom in and see that one there. So we've got our trees. All right, so first things first, we've got 5611 Calkstone Drive. It's 3,224 square feet. One of the first things I'll do is either on Zillow or on Roddy's profile is I'm going to open it up to see if it's currently for sale, what it sold for last time. So 12, 13 years ago, this thing sold for $213,000. I bet it is worth a lot more right now. Our automated value says it's going to be worth $274,000, but those automated values really help you know if you're in the right ballpark, but it is not something that you never want to bid based on an automated value. And so here's people that bought our, how to buy foreclosures with our Bigger Pockets book have seen this spreadsheet. This is one of the gifts that came for people that bought the book, where they can get these downloadable sheets. So I'm going to switch it to this, make it a little bit bigger. Is that any bigger when I do it like that, Curtis?
It's helping a little bit.
Helps. Let me see if I can zoom in. I'm going to hit zoom a couple times. Did it work? It's not really zooming.
There you go.
Oh, all right. Now we are closer. Now we can actually see that spreadsheet a little bit better. All right. So here's the concept. The idea is we've got over here in the column on the left, we've got square foot in one column. So comparable sale is, hey, these are houses in that neighborhood that have sold, and we have different square footages and different sales prices on there. And so we plot them on a graph, and really your graph should look like this to determine what the house is going to be worth. That green one there would be a subject property. And so you could come in here and you could change the square footage, say, well, in this neighborhood, what if it's a 2,000 square foot home? You plug in 2,000 square feet, and it would say, oh, that house is going to be $254,000. If you plug this in, you plug in 1,400 square feet, oh, that house is going to be worth $207,000. Now, what's really key with this is the numbers that you put in here are real numbers that are going to be in that neighborhood for properties that are similar. In an ideal world, you're only doing other houses that are the same size, as the one that you're trying to comp, same everything. We don't always have that. So people would say, so here's the line. Why would a house be above the line? Why would a house be below the line? A house might be above the line if it has a pool, if it has stainless appliances, if it has a big yard, if it's across the street from a park, something that makes it better than the average house. So the average houses are going to be along this trend line. What would you say to bring it below the line? It would have to be below average. So it could be backing up to like 4 lanes of traffic. It could be on a corner exposed. It could be missing a fence. It could be a fixture, anything like that. So our quickest way, we're going to look at 5611 Calkstone Drive. So first example I'm going to use is how to comp using Zillow. So 5611 Calkstone Drive, Killeen. Zillow is free. Most places where we do our Roddy service, most places in the U.S., people can get comps using Zillow, it's pretty crazy that people used to be paying for this stuff all the time, and now there's kind of free access to it. So what we know is it's a 3,224 square foot house that matched our other stats. And so it's right in here. We just saw that on our other one. The way that I like to sort my comps is newest to oldest, because we've seen the prices are changing all the time. And so you want to plug in stuff that's really sold in the last 3 to 4 months if you can. I had to zoom out a little bit there because when I first was zoomed in, I had, one from February, one from January, another from January, and it started going into December. I'd prefer not to jump right to those December ones. So I wanted to scroll about just a little bit, see if I had anything else that was newer. So we could plug in one at a time. So this house, 2327 square feet, sold for $265,000. So 2327 is 265,000. And I'm just going to start going.
And if you go back, if you mentioned you like to sort these by their the date they sold last. Can you show the viewers where you're actually seeing that in the thumbnail?
Yeah. So over here, one thing you can do is you can sort here by homes for you, price high to low, price low to high, or newest. So whenever I'm using comparable sales, I'm always going to do that newest category, because square footage and time is going to be a bigger influence than anything else to at least establish what that trend line should be. So next we've got 3577 for 344. The other things that you want to see when you're doing that, if possible, is you want to look through really quick and see, does it have a pool or not? This one does have a pool. So when we're looking at that 344 price, if yours doesn't, you could do a couple different things to adjust it. But I would almost say I'm going to make that 320, because it's just assuming that because that one had a pool, I'm going to say that would really be 320 without the pool. Now, that's a guess. A pool could be anywhere from 10 to 30,000 as a variance. Sometimes you're going to create your trend line, then you're going to have a pool and go above or below. But I'm going to say that 320 is going to be above the trend line. So I'm going to move it down so I can make it a little bit more accurate. 1881. And as I'm looking at this, I'm making sure that they're newer houses also, that they're the same age as ours. This is 2010. Ours was 2008. So we've got 1881 for 199,000.
Aaron, do you have a certain range that you like to stay within? So built in 2000. Are you searching from like 1995 to 2005, or what does that look like for you?
So if all possible, you want something within 5 years of the house. So ours is built in 2008. So you'd want between 2003 and 2013. Right now I'm plugging away anything in that area. One, based on the assumption that these are all pretty new houses. And so unless something sticks out is really old, it's probably built around the same time, because it's just a newer build neighborhood that we're pretty familiar with. Sometimes you'll have to go, like, I want to say in a perfect world, you do just within a quarter mile, everything within 5 years. You don't always get that luxury. So there's times when you have to still plug it in, but you could also adjust your comp up or down a little bit on that sheet. So let's say it's a built in 2000 that sells for 200,000. You could put it a little higher onto your trend line as you're trying. So here's a 2007, so that's a good comp compared, but you can also adjust just like I did with the pool. So 2804, 289. Oh, that already says 289.
What would you do with a different square footage, right? Do you have a range that you use for that?
Yeah, say that again.
So with something that had a different square footage, like, you've got stuff anywhere on your sheet from 1880 to 2300 or 3500 actually. Do you rule anything out because it's too big or too small? It doesn't match your floor plan?
Yeah, so in a perfect world, so if I've got 20 comps in an area and some of the places you're going to, then I would say you want to be 500 square foot on the high or the low side, right? So you don't want that big of a range. The cool thing about this spreadsheet is it commonly helps. So sometimes you've got a bunch of comps at 1,000 square feet, a bunch of comps at 3,000 square feet, but nothing at 2,000 square feet. That's when one of these spreadsheets that build in the trend line can really, really help you. So to get enough values on here, what I did is I just plugged in, I copied over those 5 again. You would plug it in the same way. I'm gonna go back to Calcstone. This one's 3224 square feet. I'm gonna plug it into my sheet here. and it's saying it should sell for 308,000 just based on that. So 308,000. Back on the sheet, when we look at what we thought it was, our automated was 274. We have different values in there. The Zestimate, if I go back to it, their automated was 280. And so we're looking for 3224 square feet. So if you want to do a quick check to see, does this make sense or not in there? So 3224 square feet. Here's one that's really close, 3130 on the same street. Let's see what this one sold for. 3130 on the same street 2 months ago. Sold for 255. Oh, that's a crazy low sale. That might throw off my whole guess on what our valuation is. I'm gonna have to come back to that one and see what happened. I was not expecting that to be such a different price that's on there. It maybe make me look closer back at that area to see why other ones would be selling for higher. So 2804, back to Sulphur Spring. This one sold for 289,000. It was 2,804 square feet. So it's saying this one sold for 290 and it's 300 square feet smaller. Our automated is saying 308. That makes sense. $18,000 difference for the 300 square feet. So I'm going to trust that as the value when I plug in. Now to make that more accurate is instead of copying from here, I would plug in 10 comp sales, push them in there. And that's the idea of that spreadsheet. Now, one thing that you want to make sure that you don't do, that sometimes a lot of people do, is people could say, well, let's see, this one here, this was almost 2,000 square feet. So 1967 square feet sold for 225,000. 1967 sold for 225,000. A lot of people will look at that and say, well, that's actually $114 a square foot. So if they're going to go comp this house, I have seen tons and tons of real estate agents do this. When they say, okay, 3224 square feet, let's do 3224 square feet. I've seen people say, all right, that one was $114 a square foot. Let's just multiply that. And they would come up with a comp value of $368,000 a square foot. So if you're within like 50 bucks a square foot, Curtis, you can do the price per square foot idea. But this is something that happens all the time. Is people say, hey, this one sold for $115 a square foot. You apply that for a house that's a lot bigger, a lot smaller. If you look at the way this graph is, it's more like an old algebra equation of mx plus b. So there is a slope to this, but it's not a direct equation. It's like it hits this zero intercept over here for the value of like the land or the neighborhood or things like that. So as you get bigger, it goes up, but cost per square foot goes down. If I was going to just do a measurement of what the cost per square foot is on all of these, ranges from $114 to $89 a square foot. So the bigger the house is, the smaller the price per square foot. The smaller it is, the higher the price per square foot. So that's how to use Zillow for comps. Now, sometimes Zillow will tell you the sold price. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes it'll just say that it was pending. So if you're going to be trying to plug that in, you can see how quickly it went into escrow. So they listed it on February 20th. They went pending 2 days later. So right now, normally you would say, okay, it sold for 250. In today's market, you'd probably say that actually sold for 260 because everything that we're writing offers on or getting is over asking. So if let's say that it was listed on December 20th and it went to escrow on February 20th and it said it went pending at 249, we're going to make an assumption that sold for 230 or 240 instead. Now, if we get to use MLS, it's a little bit different. You're going to jump into that, Curtis. Before we jump into MLS, I'm going to use the example of what we've already built in for people using Prophawk. So for different areas, we plug in sales prices for different areas. And so this one is for Calcstone. And we have the chart kind of built in on here. Oh, that chart is not, I don't know why that is so crazy right now as I try to zoom in on it. Let me pull up a different one, see if my chart gets better. We're using that same chart that we built as a built-in, and I got to figure out why Calcstone, it always happens during demo, gets thrown off considerably. All right, our property is coming up. And that one does not have as many comps in the area that's going to be doing the chart for it. Same thing, it's throwing off that other one. I got to fix that chart. That always happens during a demo. Theoretically, what we're going to have here is this chart is going to be exactly like this one that I built here. So you're going to see your valuations as they come in. So I'm going to stop sharing, Curtis, and I want you to show them how you would comp, doing instead of using our spreadsheet, how you find the same data inside MLS. Now, we've got one in particular, I think, that we're going to be looking at. Lauren Leah, I think that was an auction one.
Yep.
So here, 1735 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, sold at auction not too long ago. So I'm going to stop my screen and let you take over.
Awesome. Let's see. All right, my MLS now.
Yeah, I see your MLS.
All right. So if you're a real estate agent, most real estate agents will recognize this. Most MLSs all look the same. We've got access to MLS across the state, and really the layout is the same. So we've got the different features we're looking for in the center and in the right columns. We're looking for a certain date range. Now, right now, a sold range of 180 days might be a little bit too broad of a range. Aaron, what do you suggest that investors use right now for just with the way that the market is right now?
So first, I would start with 60 days and a quarter-mile radius to see if you get enough data. If you don't get enough data, then you start going to 90 or 120, and then you can also increase your radius. But if you've got like 4 or 5 sales in the last month within a quarter mile, that's going to tell you you don't need 20 comps to get it done. You got 4 or 5 in that quarter mile that meets the 60 days. That's going to be good enough.
Yeah, so we've only got 2 sales, and we've got 3 that are currently under contract right now. So it looks like Lauren contract right now. We can just tell by the reds are going to be solds, and then the green is going to be active properties right now. So we might push it to 90 days to see if we get a couple more. Yeah, and that looks like that did it. So you feel comfortable with this number of properties in this, Aaron?
Yeah, I definitely feel comfortable when I see that many in the area. I would try to pull it up, try to see it as a spreadsheet now.
Awesome. So all right, so once we've looked at the map, once we've done that, we can go over here to results. It looks like we've got 12 properties. You can look here in the status. We've got 1 active, 2 of them. 3 of them are under contract, and then the other 8 are going to be sold. So, I think a lot of people will ignore the actives. Like we actually didn't even look at it when we were looking at Zillow, right? But these things that are active actually will tell us what the market is people are trying to or are thinking about the value of their different properties right now. So I think I always look at actives to see what other agents are thinking, what other investors are selling their properties for. And then also, obviously, the properties that are under contract, looking to see how long they were on the market before they went under contract. So we can see that, this property right here on Willamette Lane, it's only been on the market 6 days. Lauren Lee was 15 days. And this other property has been active at $165,000 for 10 days. So just from this spreadsheet, we're getting a lot of pretty valuable information. If we just go ahead and select all, and we wanted to look at a more detailed view of this, we could go ahead and click on summary and actually start scrolling through each of the properties that are subject properties and decide whether or not we want to include those in our comp. So, Aaron, do you remember what age or what year Lauren Lee was built?
Yeah, so Lauren Lee was built in 2006, and this is a great view to see it. It's also a single story. So single stories and 2 stories also sell for different prices. So if you have enough comps, you would go through here and you would click off the 2 stories.
So you would probably click off this one. This looks like another one, 2008, single story. 2008, it looks like the single story.
I think it is too, yeah.
Yep. All right, so we're there. Keep going. Again, 2008 single story, 2009 single story, 2010. We're getting a little bit further away from our year of construction. But we'll keep that in there for now. 2-story, 2008. We'll take that out because we have enough comps. Another 2-story, 1-story, 1-story. All right. So it looks like all of our year of constructions and approximate size are near the same. What was let's see if we have Lauren Lee since it's under contract. We know that let's see, 1735 square feet. So if we go back just to make sure that we're in this approximate size. We've got 1894, 1848. So these are all about the same size. 1578, 2160. I don't know. Would you take that out, Aaron?
I think you could leave those as long as we've got the other ones. And now go to your single line diagram. And so that was such a good point. There's so much good data there. Now, if you have something pending, another good idea is to just call the agent. Say, hey, what did you go into escrow for? They'll tell you. Like, they're not going to keep it as a secret. You go, hey, how many offers did you get? I'm trying to figure out how much to sell my other house for. And they will tell you what happened. They're not keeping that close to the vest. All right, now go to that single line, Curtis, and sort it by square feet. So one of the things we said is once you realize that all the comps are, accurate, I think you could hit that top square foot right there. All right. So now as we get to scroll through, you can kind of see what your price is as you go up. So that fourth or fifth column from the right starts at price 180. It says like 159, 143, 150. So right around that 1735 square feet, what do those prices say in there? Or can you hit Control Plus a couple times, zoom in on that a little bit?
Let's see. Yep.
Oh, it works.
See that a little bit better?
Yeah, I see that a lot better. So what we really see there is, you've got prices going up and down, and they're ranging anywhere from a high of 245 to a low of 143. And that's from 1564 to 3282. So you're going to price it somewhere in the middle. Lauren Lee is listed at 180,000 right now, and it went pending right away. But if you look a little bit bigger than that, the 1791 was for 174, 1848 is for 175, 1857 for 190. So it's kind of like right in the middle there. Now, if you get to look closer, guys, Bridgewood and Holster, those two that are a little bit bigger, they sold a few months prior. So the market is just getting hotter. And when you get to see those smaller ones, the 1683 that sold for 143,000, if we looked into that, we would see that one was around that 90-day mark and not as nice of a house. So this is a good way to try to figure out where yours would fall in the list. This is just the same as building that spreadsheet, but if you have a 1,900 square foot house, you're going to go kind of put a line there in that single line diagram. And it's going to be between the Deputy Drive and Willamette on those bottom three. And then you're going to try to decide what your sales price would be based on that range. And the bigger you get, the closer you get to 245. The smaller you get, the closer you get to that 143. But the nice thing about the MLS data is it also has sold price, not just list price. And so if it sells for over asking, they put it in here on the single line diagram. And so you get a little bit more accurate, but don't be afraid to call agents and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out what that house sold for. Would you mind telling me? I know you had lots of offers on it.
Yep.
Go ahead. That's a pretty cool little diagram they got in there.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see, what else should we, and it's really that same concept of being able to go kind of jump through and show the data points there. And it's to be, MLS gets you the sales price and the list price. Zillow is going to tell you how quickly it went pending. So you still have to do some guesswork. You don't know exactly what it sold for. You don't know if it was 20,000 under asking, 20,000 over asking. Our Prophawk valuations that get plugged in on that spreadsheet are a mixture of both. Some of them are going to be sold prices from MLS. Some of them we're making an estimate. And I think it says in there, asks them is a slightly different color if we say that they sold, but we don't know. So that'd be the same as a Zillow price. Sometimes we'll use the most recent list price. Sometimes we'll go in there, and most of the time we plug in the most recent list price and say this one's sold. We don't know exactly what it sold for, and so it'll be an icon there for that. But again, what you're trying to figure out is what would the average house sell for in the neighborhood at that square footage, and then is your house better than average or worse than average? On my trend line, all the 1,900 square foot houses are selling for 200,000, but mine has a giant backyard. Well, then try for 220. Or they're all selling for 200,000, but mine has a pool. Let's try for 220. And so again, the biggest concept with how to price houses is if someone would pay, if one person is willing to pay a certain amount of money for this, that's how much it is worth. But if appraisers are going to go and do an analysis for a lender, they aren't going to use just one. They always need 3 or 4 or 5 comparable sales around there. So I think when I say if one person's willing to pay for it, to pay 200,000 for it, that's how much it's worth. Appraisers will say, well, we need to make sure that 3 people would be willing to pay 200,000 for it to figure out what it's worth. And that's how they go. And they go find 3 houses that are similar. Sometimes they'll say this one has a 3-car garage, this one has a 2. So they'll do the same thing. They'll figure out where it is on the trend line and they'll drop it up and down as they adjust for that. So for all you guys that have a copy of our How to Buy Foreclosures book, there's a ton of detail in there. Some of the spreadsheets that we've got. You also have access to some of those some of the spreadsheets as a download where you can fill them in and plug them in. But for all you Roddy members too, if you're looking for more of that stuff, just send us a message. Hopefully you guys liked this video and we helped you figure out how to price your houses. Curtis, anything we're forgetting? Anything to add?
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd add or question that we get a lot is how do we price older houses, right? So, and kind of we see it a lot in Dallas or in Bexar County or even Tarrant County, where you've got a property that was built in 1920 that looks like it's probably a tear down. It could be a tear down or it needs a ton of work right next to like a mansion. Do you have any advice for people that are trying to comp properties and come up with I guess an asking price for that?
It's really tough because it's almost like, so if you've got a house that's built in 1960 in a neighborhood that's all built in 2000, right? Is that kind of what your question is? So
yeah,
you've got
exactly.
all these big houses next door. There's going to be a couple different buyers for that. Right now, the 1960 house will sell for more than the average 1960 house because it's in a really nice neighborhood. Because someone living there is going to go, hey, I'm in a really nice, good, safe neighborhood. All these houses look big and nice and clean. But it's much tougher to price stuff in those neighborhoods. And it's much tougher because there could be someone else that says, hey, I'm going to buy that house and I'm going to knock it down and I'm going to build a big, nice mansion like my neighbors. And when they're doing that, you almost have to figure out what your price is based on. What would a 4,000 square foot super nice house sell for? How much would it cost me to build that? You back that in and go, oh, it would sell for 400. It'll cost me 200 to build it. Okay, I'll pay 200 for that one instead. So it's kind of like, are you looking at it for land or as a fixer? But what you can really do in those cases, I would still zoom out and I would try to find houses that are in that price point, that price range, that age date. If you have one thing that I learned really quickly about like new homes, there's a lot of times when you have a house. I bought houses at auction that were built less than 6 months ago, right? So no one ever lived in it, still new, right? So you're like, hey, the comps for the new houses there are $350,000. I've got one that's new, but I'm not the builder. How much do I sell it for? I bet I could sell it for $350,000. What you see is someone is willing to pay a 10% premium for a new house from a builder with a warranty. And I've tested it a whole bunch of different ways. What that comes down to is as soon as somebody buys it from the builder, it's not worth $350,000 anymore. It's worth $320,000 because in their mind, unless there's a transferable warranty, unless the builder's still in business, but when it comes to foreclosures and normal resales, if we're buying as a foreclosure, we don't have the same relationship with the builder. We don't have the warranty anymore. So when we're going to sell it, you see that 10% change. I can see similar. So when I think of that, you go from this price to that just on it not being new anymore. You could also say, hey, in this neighborhood of houses built in 2000, here's one in 1980. If it was built in 2000, it would be worth $150,000. But because it's 20 years older, I'm automatically going to take off $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. And it's you're still going to be guessing. The market will decide. But you're going to be trying to figure out what your closest is and then guess. So much of it's about gut feel, and ask yourself, if I was a buyer, how much less would I want to pay for this one when I don't have the stuff that my neighbor has?
Yep. Awesome.
All right.
I think that answers all the questions then.
Great. All right, Roddy members, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully we helped you learn more about your pricing today. We've got a couple more webinars going this week, and you'll probably see Curtis or Jack or Paul later this week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.